From ring gear to everyday wear, a wrestling series. Hi everyone! Welcome back to my channel. My name is Shayla and I have been sewing and designing my own clothes since I was 12 years old. Since I was young, I have always combined my passion for fashion and, a secret unknown to many of you, my passion for wrestling. And now I want to share that with all of you. That's exactly what I did with the series I created called From Ring Gear to Everyday Wear. How this series will work is that there will be a generator that is a play on the Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber filled with women's wrestlers from various promotions and eras, and soon I will be adding the men, and whoever the generator stops on is whose ring gear I'll be transforming into what I consider to be everyday wear, and to inspire you to create your version of everyday wear. So, without further ado, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, and share this video with your friends and fellow wrestling fans. Now, let's get ready to rumble! Hi, I'm at Joann Fabrics. Going in, I didn't know what color fabrics I wanted, what kind of fabrics I wanted. I was just hoping that something popped out at me, and luckily it did. I have my sketch done, I have my colors chosen, pink and burgundy. I'll be making a mini jacket with high-waisted pants, keeping the cutout on the leg, and of course her signature lips. The materials I got from Joann's are 2 yards of black netting fabric, 3 yards of pink vegetable dye denim, 2 yards of pink sequin fabric, 1.5 yards of burgundy denim fabric, 1 pack of snap buttons, 1 spool of pink and burgundy thread, 3 pack of black crystals, 2 pack of pink crystals, and another pack of pink crystals that I ended up not using. For this outfit, I'll be using my shirt, sleeve, collar, and pant pattern. First, I'll be working on the back portion of the jacket. I've modified my shirt pattern into 3 pieces, the back yoke, side panel, and center back. For reference, I've shown the back of a jean jacket, showing each part of my modified pattern. Next, lay out each part onto the pink denim fabric and cut 2 pieces for each one. Once that is cut out, place the center back pieces right sides together onto the side panels and sew it down. Then sew together the center back pieces and repeat the same thing for the back yoke. Here I'm just preparing my sewing machine. I'm winding the bobbin and then I'll be threading the needle. Now that the back yoke is done, I attach it to the bottom half of the jacket, making sure that the center seams are lined up evenly. Once that's finished, I sew 2 rows of top stitching along all 5 seams. The top stitching is done, the back portion of the jacket is finished, and we can put this to the side for now. On to the front portion of the jacket. I'm tracing the entire shirt pattern onto a piece of paper because I'll be modifying it into 2 sections. Just like the back of the jacket, the front will also have a yoke. I do that by drawing a line 4.5 inches down from the top across to the armhole, adding a 1/2 inch seam allowance below that line. Next, I draw a curved line 3 1/4 inches from the bottom across to the side seam, adding seam allowance below the curved line and at the top of that section. I cut out both sections, put them to the side, and start working on my button placket, which I don't show on camera. The button placket is 5 inches wide and the length of the entire shirt pattern. Here I'm laying all 4 pieces facing upwards. Next I'm going to attach the yokes to the bottom of the jacket and sew with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Then I'm going to sew 2 rows of top stitching for each seam. Sew the button plackets with a 1/2 inch seam allowance onto the opening of the jacket. Then fold it in half and pin it towards the back. Place the front jacket pieces onto the back piece, then sew the shoulder and side seams together. To hide all the raw edges inside the jacket, I've made a lining by repeating all the steps up until this point, just with a thinner fabric. Cut a notch a 1/2 inch away from each of the button plackets. This will be where the collar starts. I have my 2 collar pieces cut out and right sides facing together. I'm going to sew around the whole thing except for the bottom opening. Once the collar is sewn and turned inside out, find where the middle of the collar is and pin it. Then match the pin up with the center seam on the back of the jacket. Pin and sew the back layer of the collar around the neck hole and stop at the notches. Fold the raw edge of the button placket in a 1/4 inch. Next, fold it over to the notch we made earlier by the collar. Then sew a 1/4 inch down from the button placket across to the notch. Turn the button placket inside out and make sure to point out the corner edge to make sure it's sharp. Then top stitch it all the way around. To close the collar, I top stitch a 1/4 inch away from the opening. I continue that top stitch along the rest of the collar for a finished look. Here's the top stitching for the finished collar and the button placket. Here is the waistband for the bottom of the jacket. To make that pattern, I traced the curve on the shirt pattern and extended 2.5 inches. And to attach it, I flipped that pattern upside down, then I sewed along the curve at the bottom of the jacket. Here I'm showing you with the actual waistband how to attach it to the bottom of the jacket. I actually made 2 waistbands and would sandwich the jacket between them both. Once it's sewn on, I fold in the raw edges at the bottom a 1/2 inch, then I top stitch it in place. On to the sleeve pattern. I'm tracing the entire sleeve pattern and will be modifying it into 3 sections. The top half being the pink denim, the middle strip being the burgundy denim, and the bottom is the black netting. From the top of the pattern, I draw a line down 11.5 inches and another line below that one 1.5 inches. I cut out all my pieces, making sure to add seam allowances to each one, and cut them out onto the fabric. Lay out the top half of the sleeve, sandwiching it between the 2 burgundy strips. Once I sewed that in place, flip the 2 burgundy strips downwards and fold in the raw edges a 1/2 inch. Then sandwich the bottom sleeve piece in between them and top stitch it closed. Fold the sleeve right sides together, sewing it closed with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Then serge the raw edges. Here's a close-up of the top stitching on the burgundy strip. Match the seam of the sleeve to the side seam of the jacket. Pin around the armhole and sew with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Here I'm showing you how to attach the snap buttons. I've also made an animation of how to. You have the button and the socket, and to attach them, lay the button flat side down onto the base and place the socket onto the stem of the button. Then place the metal tool inside the stem of the button and hammer it until it's locked in. Here we have the post and the stud. To attach these two, lay the post onto the base, add the stud upright onto the post, and hammer it in place. I cut 5 holes onto each button placket, making sure that they're evenly spaced and not too big. For one side of the button placket, the buttons are the top layer and the socket secures it underneath on the inside of the jacket. For the other side of the button placket, the stud is the top layer and the post goes through the stud on the inner layer. Then I hammer everything in place. On to the lips. I'm looking at Bianca Belair's ring gear to get an idea of what lip template to look for. I look up lip templates and I find one kind of similar to hers, so I download it, go to my print settings, change the layout to portrait, and print it out. In total, I'll be making 4 lips, 1 large one for the jacket and 3 mini ones for the pant leg. I cut them out of the sequin and black lining fabric and used the burgundy denim as the trim. Once the lips are done, I hand sew them with invisible thread onto each side of the jacket. I'm laying the black crystals onto the netting of the sleeve, making sure I like the spacing of them before I glue them in place. This part requires a lot of patience because it is very tedious. The glue that I'll be using is the E6000 glue. It's really strong, so I highly recommend that when you are gluing, that it is in a ventilated room. I also noticed that in order for the crystals to not slide off, I had to first blow on the glue to make it tacky, then I let it sit for a little bit, and then I add the crystals. Finally, the jacket is now complete. Here's a close-up of all the details, the buttons, the collar, the lips, the top stitching, the crystals. I'm very happy with the design and how it turned out. Onto the pants. Here I have my pants pattern laid out onto the pink denim fabric. I'm cutting out 4 pieces in total, 2 off the front and 2 off the back. When cutting out the pants pattern, make sure that the fabric is on fold, meaning that the fabric is folded in half. So when you cut out the pattern, there are 2 identical pieces. I cut out the pieces, but they ended up not fitting me. So if you notice that they look different in the next clip, it is because I cut 4 new pieces. I have the new pieces cut out, and on the front pieces, a zipper cover is connected to them. I'm marking an inch above the end of the zipper cover, and at that point was sew together that bottom curve and sew together the back of the pants. Starting at the 1 inch mark, I sew a base stitch to the top of the pants. Open up the zipper cover and lay the zipper downwards on the right side next to the seam. Then sew the right side of the zipper in place. Fold the left side of the zipper a half an inch away from the edge of the zipper cover, then sew the zipper in place. I'm making sure all the layers near the zipper are in place. Next, I sew 2 rows of top stitching in a curve along the zipper fly. Then I seam rip the base stitch I did earlier to expose the zipper. This is how it looks after I made the darts a little more spaced apart and opened up the zipper. Place the back of the pants onto the front, right sides together, and sew close the side and inner seams with a half-inch seam allowance. I tried on the pants and marked the line where I want the shorts to start. Keeping in mind a cuff will be added to the bottom that will add to the length. I added my half-inch seam allowance, then I cut out the shorts. Just like the jacket waistband, I make the shorts cuff pattern by tracing the curve of the shorts, front and back, and extend it 2.5 inches. I'm cutting 4 pieces in total, 2 front pieces and 2 back pieces onto the burgundy denim. I have my pieces cut out. I sew the front piece onto the back piece right sides together with a half-inch seam allowance. I attach the cuff just like the jacket waistband. I sandwich the shorts between both of the cuffs, sew it with the half-inch seam allowance, then flip down the cuffs and fold in the raw edges a half an inch. Once you fold in the raw edges of both cuffs a half an inch, top stitch it closed. For the waistband, I have my back piece and 2 front pieces. I sew the front pieces onto the back piece, right sides together with a half-inch seam allowance. Then I sew a triangle onto the half-inch seam allowance to make the waistband more form-fitting. Here's the finished waistband. I also folded the raw edges on both ends a half an inch. Match the side seams of the waistband to the side seams of the pants and sew with the half-inch seam allowance. I cut out 2 4.5-inch tall strips and sew them together. This would be the cuff. I fold the cuff in half and place it around the detached pant leg with the raw edge of the cuff being upright. I sew it together, then top stitch it along the seam. Here's a close-up of the pants so far. I added the button to the waistband off camera, and I also added 3 belt loops. I made a sequin strip off camera that is 1 3/4 inches wide and the length of the pants. I tried on the pants and pinned where I want the sequin strip to lay, then I top stitch it in place. Place the lips cascading down the pant leg, then hand sew it in place with invisible thread. Here's how the sequin strip looks on the back of the pants. I measured the front sequin strip around to the back strip and used that measurement to determine how much black netting I should cut. I pinned the black netting behind the sequin strips and under the burgundy cuffs, then I top stitch it in place. Just like the sleeve, I glued the black crystals onto the netting of the pants. I'm adding pink crystals to the right side of the shorts, but instead of gluing them, I'm going to hand sew them in place. After 3 failed attempts of making the pants, I finally finished. Here's a close-up of all the details, and then I'll show the full outfit reveal.